So let's say you've got an idea for your college essay, but every time you sit down to write, nothing happens. Does it sound familiar? I'm going to walk you through how you're going to get your idea into a real working outline. By the way, I'm Tina Choulet. I'm the founder of Blue Skies Ivy League Consulting. I've read and edited hundreds and hundreds of essays. I've helped students get admitted to the top 5 colleges in the US and many, many others. And what I'm about to tell you is a foolproof method for getting your outline fast. And I've used this approach to help students get into the best schools. So we're going to get you going through every step of the way of getting the perfect essay, okay? So you'll be able to download her actual essay in the description. And by the end, you will go from blank page to a roadmap for your personal statement, okay? So let's break it down into the 5 sort of elements here, and then we're going to go through the actual essay of a Yale admit and talk about what their outline was that got them to that winning essay. It's a foolproof method for getting your outline fast, and I've used this approach to help students get into the best schools. So let's get started, okay? So if you don't already know, your essays are about helping universities understand what makes you you, what is important to you, how have you made your choices, what are your personal qualities that you have, right? So admissions believe that your past is a great indicator of how you're going to evolve and grow in the future, right? So they want insight into your past, and your essay, if it's written correctly, should tell admissions about the kind of person you are. It's like this window into your identity, okay? So for the essay outline, there's 5 must-haves, and pretty much all statements of purpose or your main essays are going to have 5 very similar characteristics, right? There's no one size fit alls, but I would say 90% of them have these 5 elements, okay? 1 is a purpose, 2 is a passion, 3 is anecdotes and stories, 4 are your core qualities or your personality, which support all of your stories, and 5 are the lessons learned or the personal growth that you had in telling us this story, okay? So let's go into each of these in detail. Just a quick reminder, don't get overwhelmed. If you're feeling lost or you need extra help, you can either check out my courses, which I have linked below, or you can actually get in touch with me. You can sign up for a free consultation, 30 minutes, where we can talk about what's kind of confusing you, okay? Anyways, back to our outline here. So the first one here is a purpose. Let's dive deep. There's a few purposes you can have, so you can pick more than one purpose if you want, by the way. So one is like a transformation. I was this person, and because these things happen, I became this person. Second is just a window into who you are. So I love music, and it tells you this about me. A connection with your community, demonstration of leadership, demonstration of vulnerability, a connection through your major, right? So that can be, any of those can be the purpose of why you're writing this, all right? Let's go through a couple of these, okay? So one is a transformation you underwent, and I think transformation is basically the most common essay, because basically we're trying to figure out through these essays, how have you grown and changed as a person, and how have you made choices, right? How have you become who you are? So we only know that if we saw who you were, and then the stories that changed you over time, and then who you are now, and what person are you entering college as, right? So that's that transformation that you underwent. Again, examples are coming, okay? So just hold on for me. You started as status quo. Over time, you became a brand new you. Along the way, you were armed with all these learnings, and these learnings you're gonna bring with you wherever you go, right? So you can understand why this is so powerful. Another purpose is like a window into your identity. So pretty much every essay is a window into your identity. If it doesn't tell me something that the rest of your resume doesn't tell me, then there's no reason why you should have it. But these will maybe be less focused on your transformation. They'll be more focused in like, because you know this, you can now understand me, okay? Another is to demonstrate a vulnerability. So nobody is perfect, right? And we all have these failures, we have fears. There is also a transformation that's going to occur generally because, you know, you had this fear, but now you don't. You had this failure, but now you don't. This is basically a transformation that's supported by something deep and scary that you're revealing to me, okay? So let's say you tell me you're fearful of others knowing that you're an LGBTQ2. If you don't describe how you overcame that fear, you would have missed a key opportunity, okay? Again, stay put. I understand without an example, it's kind of hard to know what I'm talking about, but that Yale Admits essay is waiting for you. But I have to go through these kind of more tactical points before we can kind of get into the more interesting part of how is this applied. Okay, so the second point is passion. So whatever you write about in your main essay, you have to care deeply about it, more so than you care about any other topic which you could have written about. And whether your entire story is about your love for music or your use of music as a metaphor, it really doesn't matter, but you have to show the emotional side of whatever it is you're passionate about, because I want to know your story about how that passion affected you, okay? This will also be how you are unique, because most people's passions are very different from one another, okay? You can tell me what are you passionate about, what motivates you, how did you make choices, what were your high points, your low points. There's so many ways you can talk about your passion, but that should come out in the story that you choose. The third out of 5 points here is your anecdotes and stories, right? So for any paper you would have written this far, you would have a topic sentence, right? So in this case, I'm calling that the first point, which is your purpose. And then you're going to follow that up with evidence, okay? So your stories in this case are your evidence for your college essays, right? So if you want to show that you're super creative, I'm only going to believe you if you start telling me it's about the craft you made with this like Y-shaped branch and this ribbon from your grandma's dress and etc. So that's creative. If you just say I'm creative, it's harder for me to believe you. Or if you just made a drawing, again, it's not a story that demonstrates your creativity, okay? So it's those details about your life that are the proof in the pudding. They're the evidence for why X is your passion or why Z is your purpose, okay? So every anecdote you use is to explain a different element of your persona, okay? There is no essay that exists without stories, or you have done it wrong. Okay, just 2 more points, and then we're gonna go into that real life example for the Yale Admit, okay, their real essay that they submitted. So the 4th point here is your core qualities in your outline. Inevitably, you're telling me about the time you overcame your grandfather's death, okay, or your battle to embrace your identity as a dark child, right? So these are your core qualities of self-confidence or self-worth or your independence. You're basically revealing your personality, okay? So next to every anecdote that you tell me, you have to tell me what quality are you demonstrating, right? Because slightly by spinning some of the words, you'll convey a different part of who you are, right? So why are you telling me this story? There has to be a reason, right? Is it to show how creative you are, like with the Y-shaped drawing, or is it to show how resilient you are? And because of that aspect, your story might change slightly. The 5th point here is the lessons learned, and this is very, very important, okay? So most of us are like, don't write the topic sentence, don't write the conclusion until the paper is done. So we are actually going to do that as well if you follow my courses on how you write, but you're going to have to start with the basic lessons in bullet format, okay? So the stories and anecdotes you use have to logically lead into the lessons you learned, right? If you don't know your conclusion, how do you know which of your anecdotes to choose, right? So if you, for example, have been studying music for 15 years, you would probably have some 40 anecdotes. Which of the 3 are the best? Well, you have to know your conclusion to know this, okay? Let me give you a quick example. So hopefully you know about the tortoise and the hare, right? So because our lesson is that slow and steady win the race, right? That's why along the way, we're gonna focus on the rabbit napping and the tortoise continuously walking without giving up, right? If we didn't know that, we might be talking about the rabbit running as fast as they can, right? So you have to know what your point is that you want to convey, your lesson learned. That is going to show your maturity and how you think before you know which stories that you need to use. So if you want to follow along, go to the description, download the essay called Una, because that's what we're going to refer to as we create the outline. Okay, I've highlighted these colors below so you can see where it appears in the final essay. But right now, we're just going to go through the outline, okay? So for the outline for Una, so remember point number 1 is your purpose, right? So we're talking about transformation. So these are just bullets right now, okay? So the first bullet that we would write is transformation. When I was a child, I wanted to be front and and setter. In fact, my name means front and setter. But by the time I grew up, I realized that I prefer to be part of a group, and that really strengthened me. The second transformation here is about music and how when I was young, I hated it. But then over time, I learned to love it and it became my passion. Point 2 in the outline is passion. So that's her chamber music. Point 3 is anecdotes and stories, okay? So the first story is my parents made me take piano lessons when I was 5. I thought it was torturous. I cried, I fought with them, but they wouldn't let me give up. The second story here is I scratched my name Una into a piano because I was angry that I had to learn about piano. Una means one. I was part of over 20 chamber groups. I performed in subways, Carnegie halls. I performed on broken pianos. Once I wore high heels. Once I almost fell off a stage. Point 4, my first chamber camp was at a summer camp when I was 6, and we had to perform this Scotchki prelude. I thought I would vomit because I was so anxious. Point 4 is your core qualities. So she wants to show individuality, passion, and determination, and those need to come out. And the 5th point in this outline we talked about are the lessons learned, right? So the first lesson she wants to convey is I don't need to be the star of the show. I can be part of a group and still achieve and feel great about what I'm doing. The second is that my name, which means one, doesn't define me. Again, I can be part of a group. The next thing that she wants to show is that I'm happy to kind of be part of a group the way that music also fuses together and bring people together. Another lesson she wants to show is that she feels alive when she shares music with others, okay? So once you have these 5 pieces, now it's gonna be about the 5 to 7 drafts that you're gonna do, okay? So, but the point is that you need these points to kind of get you started. Otherwise, when you free write, okay, you might go all over the place, but we're still kind of in this place of, okay, what are the major bullets that I need to hit, okay? And there's a lot more work that needs to be done. There's gonna be further videos on this, so that'll kind of help you. But download the essay Una. I have highlighted these 5 outline points throughout the essay so you can see, okay, where does her passion show up? Where does her lessons show up, okay? The final essay is a lot more elegantly written, and that's going to happen over time. But if you have the main points in the first draft, that just helps you kind of finesse the rest into making sense, okay? So what do you do now? Create an outline for any of the topics that you think you're going to write about. Then free write using this outline. If you think that this doesn't have a great direction, you might want to start over. You can pick a different topic, but sometimes it takes a few versions before you get there. But ultimately, like, your lessons, you should know up front, and they should be strong. That'll help you decide whether the rest can be converted into like a really great essay, okay? And by the way, you're not wasting time if you decide not to choose a topic, because pretty much all topics get used in some other essay, okay? And then once you see potential, then we're gonna go into the next step, okay, are these critical elements that I talk about, right? So do you have a hook? Do you have a conclusion? How do your transitions look? And the nitty-gritty of showing and not telling and all of that. So there is more work to be done. Stay tuned for that next step, which is part and parcel of the way to getting a great essay. And yes, just get started. Just write that outline and refine, and stay on, subscribe, and I'll let you know when the next one's out for you to take a look at what do you do after your outline and your free writing is done. Okay? See you in the next one.